You don't realize how fragile your peace is until life decides to test it all at once. It doesn't send you a warning. It doesn't ask if you're ready. One day, everything feels stable, your routine, your relationships, your plans, and then suddenly, something cracks. A loss, a betrayal, a setback, a silent disappointment that no one else sees. And in that moment, you find out the truth. You were never as strong as you thought you were. You were just comfortable. Stoicism doesn't care about your comfort. It prepares you for collapse, because the goal is not to avoid pain. The goal is to become the kind of person that pain cannot control. Most people spend their lives trying to control the outside world. They try to control how people treat them, how situations unfold, how quickly success arrives. But Stoicism flips that completely. It tells you that everything outside of you is unstable by nature. People change, circumstances shift, luck comes and goes. The only thing you truly own is how you respond. And if your emotions depend on things you cannot control, then your peace is always at risk. Imagine someone ignoring your message and your entire mood drops, or your boss criticizing you, and now your whole day is ruined. That's not strength, that's dependency. Real strength is when those same situations happen and you remain steady. Think about a time when something small ruined your entire day. Maybe someone spoke to you in a tone you didn't like. Maybe traffic made you late. Maybe a plan didn't go your way. Now imagine a different version of you, one who sees these things and doesn't react emotionally. Not because they don't care, but because they understand what deserves their energy and what doesn't. That's discipline. Stoicism teaches you to pause between what happens and how you respond. That pause is where your power lives. Without it, you react. With it, you choose. Mental toughness isn't built when life is easy. It's built when life is uncomfortable, inconvenient, and unfair. When you're tired but still show up. When you're frustrated but stay calm. When you want to quit but keep going anyway. That's how you train your mind. Just like lifting weights builds physical strength, enduring discomfort builds mental strength. If you avoid every difficult situation, you remain weak without realizing it. But when you lean into difficulty, even small things like waking up early when you don't feel like it, or finishing a task when you're mentally drained, you are slowly building a version of yourself that doesn't break under pressure. There's a dangerous habit most people have. They wait to feel motivated before they act. Stoicism rejects that completely. It doesn't care about motivation. It values discipline, because motivation is unreliable. Some days it's there, most days it's not. But discipline is a decision. It's doing what needs to be done, regardless of how you feel. For example, imagine someone trying to get in shape. They feel motivated on Monday, so they go to the gym. By Wednesday, they don't feel like it, so they skip. That cycle repeats, and nothing changes. But the disciplined person shows up Monday, Wednesday, Friday, no matter what. Over time, that consistency builds strength, not just in the body, but in the mind. Another truth most people avoid is this: your emotions can lie to you. You may feel like giving up, but that doesn't mean you should. You may feel like you're not good enough, but that doesn't mean it's true. Stoicism teaches you to question your feelings instead of obeying them. For example, imagine you fail at something, a job interview, a project, a goal. Your immediate thought might be, "I'm not capable." But a Stoic would challenge that. They would say, "Is that fact or just a reaction?" Then they would focus on what they can learn and improve. That shift from emotional reaction to rational thinking is what builds resilience. Life will test you in ways you can't predict. You might lose something you worked hard for. Someone you trusted might let you down. Plans you were excited about might fall apart. And in those moments, you have two choices. You can collapse emotionally, or you can stand firm and adapt. Stoicism trains you for that exact moment. It teaches you to expect difficulty, not fear it. Because when you expect challenges, you're not shocked by them, you're prepared. Imagine going into a tough week already knowing things might go wrong. When something does go wrong, instead of reacting with frustration, you think, I expected this. Now let me handle it. That mindset alone changes everything. One of the strongest mental shifts you can make is this. Stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, how can I use this? That question transforms pain into power. For example, if someone disrespects you, instead of reacting emotionally, you can use it as a test of your self-control. If you face rejection, you can use it as feedback to improve. If you go through a difficult situation, you can use it to build patience and strength. Every challenge becomes a tool, and over time, you become harder to break, because everything that once hurt you is now training you. There's also a quiet strength in learning to be alone with your thoughts. Most people avoid silence. They distract themselves constantly. Phones, social media, noise, because being alone forces them to face themselves. But Stoicism encourages that solitude, because that's where you understand your weaknesses, your triggers, your habits. That's where growth begins. Imagine sitting in silence and reflecting on your day, what you did well, where you lost control, what you can improve. That simple habit builds awareness, and awareness is the first step to discipline. Control is the foundation of everything. Not controlling others, not controlling outcomes, but controlling yourself, your thoughts, your reactions, your habits. When someone provokes you and you don't react, you're in control. When you feel lazy but still take action, you're in control. When things don't go your way and you remain calm, you're in control. And the more control you build internally, the less power the outside world has over you. Most people think strength means never feeling pain. That's not true. Strength is feeling everything and still choosing discipline, still choosing calm, still choosing to move forward. A strong person is not someone who avoids struggle. It's someone who walks through it without losing themselves. And that level of strength isn't something you're born with. It's something you build, one decision at a time. Most people break long before life actually breaks them, not because the situation is unbearable, but because their mind has never been trained to carry weight. They panic early. They assume the worst early. They quit early. Stoicism teaches you to stretch your tolerance for discomfort so that what once felt overwhelming becomes manageable. Think about someone who has never dealt with pressure. Small problems feel massive to them. But someone who has trained their mind through repeated challenges can face the same situation and remain calm. The situation didn't change. The person did. That's the goal, to become someone who can carry more without collapsing. You have to understand this clearly. Your mind is always practicing something. Every time you complain, you're practicing weakness. Every time you avoid something difficult, you're practicing escape. And every time you react emotionally without thinking, you're practicing losing control. But the opposite is also true. Every time you stay calm under pressure, you're practicing strength. Every time you do something you don't feel like doing, you're practicing discipline. Every time you pause instead of reacting, you're practicing control. Over time, these small repetitions shape who you become. You don't suddenly become strong in a crisis. You reveal the habits you've been building all along. There's a concept in Stoicism that separates people instantly. The difference between what you can control and what you cannot. Most of your stress comes from trying to control things that were never yours to control. Other people's opinions, outcomes, timing, past mistakes, none of these belong to you. Yet people waste energy fighting them every day. Imagine stressing over whether someone likes you or whether everything will go perfectly in your plan. That's wasted energy. Now imagine redirecting that same energy into your actions, your effort, your mindset. That's power. When you stop fighting reality and start working with what's in your control, your mind becomes lighter and stronger. Another hidden weakness most people have is their need for validation. They want to be seen, approved, praised, and when they don't get it, they feel insecure or discouraged. Stoicism cuts that dependency completely. It teaches you to measure yourself by your own standards, not by applause. For example, imagine you work hard on something and no one acknowledges it. A weak mindset says, "What's the point?" A strong mindset says, "I did what needed to be done. That's enough." When you no longer depend on external validation, you become dangerous in a good way, because now your effort is consistent, regardless of who's watching. Discipline also shows up in how you handle your impulses. Everyone has urges to procrastinate, to react emotionally, to take the easy way out. But strength is built in those exact moments. For example, imagine you're tired after a long day and you have something important to do. Your mind immediately looks for an excuse. "I'll do it tomorrow." That's the moment that defines you. If you give in, you reinforce that habit. If you push through, you strengthen your discipline. These moments seem small, but they add up. They decide whether you become someone who follows through or someone who always delays. There's also power in learning to detach from outcomes. Most people suffer twice, once in anticipation and once in reality. They worry about what might happen, then they suffer again when something does happen. Stoicism teaches you to focus on the process, not the result. For example, if you're preparing for something important, a test, a presentation, a goal, you give your full effort. But once it's done, you release attachment to the outcome. If it works out, good. If it doesn't, you learn and adjust. This mindset protects your peace, because your sense of worth is no longer tied to success or failure. It's tied to your effort. You also have to build the ability to stand alone. Not everyone will understand your path. Not everyone will support your decisions. And sometimes, doing the right thing will feel isolating. Stoicism prepares you for that loneliness. It reminds you that integrity matters more than approval. Imagine choosing discipline while others choose comfort, choosing growth while others stay the same. It might feel like you're alone, but in reality, you're just ahead. And over time, that gap becomes your strength. Another key to becoming unbreakable is learning how to reframe pain. Most people see pain as something to avoid, but Stoicism sees it as something to use. Pain reveals your limits. It shows you where you're weak, where you're attached, where you need to grow. For example, if criticism hurts you deeply, it may reveal insecurity. If failure crushes you, it may reveal dependence on success. Instead of running from these feelings, you study them. You ask, "What is this teaching me?" That's how pain becomes a tool instead of a threat. You must also guard your attention. Your focus is one of your most valuable resources, and most people waste it constantly. Scrolling, distractions, noise, it weakens your ability to concentrate and think clearly. Stoicism encourages intentional focus, doing one thing at a time, being present. For example, when you're working, you're fully working. When you're resting, you're fully resting. That level of control over your attention builds mental clarity. And clarity leads to better decisions, which leads to a stronger life. And finally, understand this. Becoming mentally strong is not a one-time achievement. It's a daily practice. You don't wake up one day and suddenly become unbreakable. You build it through consistent actions, through how you think, how you respond, how you show up. Some days you'll get it right, other days you won't. But what matters is that you keep training, because every day you choose discipline over comfort, control over reaction, growth over avoidance. You are becoming someone that life cannot easily break. What you've just heard is not motivation. It's a warning and an opportunity at the same time. Because life is not going to slow down for you. It's not going to become easier just because you're tired, overwhelmed, or unprepared. Challenges will come whether you're ready or not. People will disappoint you. Plans will fail. Pressure will show up at the worst possible time. And in those moments, you won't rise to some ideal version of yourself. You will fall to the level of your training. That's the truth Stoicism forces you to face. So the real question becomes, what are you training yourself for every single day? If you've been avoiding discomfort, reacting emotionally, depending on validation, or waiting to feel motivated, then you're training yourself to break. But if you start choosing discipline when it's hard, calmness when it's uncomfortable, and control when it's easier to react, then you're building something powerful. You're building a mind that doesn't panic under pressure, a mindset that doesn't collapse when things go wrong, a version of yourself that stands firm even when life hits hard. And that kind of strength doesn't just protect you, it gives you an edge that most people will never have. Because at the end of the day, this is what separates people. Not talent, not luck, not even intelligence, but control. Control over your thoughts, control over your reactions, control over your habits. When you have that, life can throw whatever it wants at you, and you'll still move forward. Not because it's easy, but because you've trained yourself to handle it. So if something in this video hit you, if you felt that realization that maybe you've been relying too much on comfort or reacting too quickly or avoiding the hard things, then don't ignore that feeling. Use it. Start small. Control one reaction today. Do one thing you've been avoiding. Stay calm in one situation where you would normally lose it. That's how it begins. And if you're serious about building that kind of strength, make sure you subscribe to PSYCHOVEST, because this channel is about one thing, turning you into someone who can't be shaken, distracted, or broken by life. Drop a comment below and tell me one area where you're choosing discipline over comfort starting today. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share this video with them, because the stronger you become, the less power life has over you.